Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. Today we have another first part, but take my town, and I'm playing as Scandinavia. My opponent, Vimes, is defending in Foxtrot, and he's playing as Eastern Bloc, so we are switching up the teams, well I guess the factions a little bit between this one and the previous. So we have of course bartered over the number of points, and I believe it was something like 800 points to 1100, something like that. I'm not entirely sure, this was a little bit ago, so my apologies for that. We're still testing out this game mode, but I kind of like it. I've gotten some positive feedback on the channel for it, so if you guys enjoy it, we will, of course, keep doing these and putting them up. So many thanks to Vimes for the help with that. I have a lot of Fallskjermjäger. I have a lot of also, so that's Fallskjermjäger. These guys are Norwegian versus the Fallskjermjägeri, which are Swedish, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but these guys are Recon Shock Infantry, so they are around to try and get some sort of vision on the towns in Foxtrot. We do identify something. Unfortunately, I had no long-range artillery for this one, so, I have the B cannon back here, but this was not part of the bid. This was just me testing out this artillery piece, because I'd never really used it before. Never really played Sweden that much before, but I've heard very good things about it. In terms of my own infantry, I have a lot of specialist infantry with the ATGM infantry here, also with the RBS 90, who are very excellent anti-helicopter troops, and just a lot of infantry fighting vehicles. So of course NM 135s are very competent for 10 points, although not a lot of armor. We have also the PBV 02As, which have quite a bit more armor, 4 frontal armor, and also carry autocannons, as well as the CV90 30Ns, which are the Norwegian really heavy hitters, kind of like Martyrs in some regards, with the Bushmaster 2, as well as STRV 103D tanks, which were a bit of a questionable choice to assault this town, but I thought, hey, we'll give it a shot. I also have an NM106, and that is just for smoking things and for a little bit of long-range fire support off of that mortar. So things are moving up a little slowly. I'm trying to get my infantry into towns before we start the engagement, because once it does begin, this is a very defensible town. We have a bridge crossing. This thing is virtually an island for all intents and purposes, unless I wanted to come all the way over here and charge through on the flats, which I could have done that. That is within the rules, as everything for my opponent does have to start in the zone, but I can come from wherever I wish. So we are starting the attack now, and the NM106s are going to be opening up, well, the singular NM106 is going to be opening up with smoke, trying to prevent a lot of long-range fire coming out of the start. That end of the town also should be moving over here in just a minute and smoking up this section where I expected to see ATGMs and other sorts of fire support. So this is set on destruction, and we will be able to see the relative points values as the game progresses, so keep that in mind as well. So just a TGB-13 trying to cross the bridge just to see, okay, is this actually a good idea, or should I wait a little bit, smoke somewhere else, and then charge? A little bit hesitant. In an actual game, this would probably be a horrible idea, as it just, tells your opponent where you're going to be coming from, but here I thought it was relatively worthwhile. A single shot going in after the TGP, who is turning right, trying to get around that town, and yeah, that would have been a nice time to charge. So in the meantime, of course, we do lose the TGP eventually, but the STRF and M41s are going to be moving forward, and we should have the infantry going with them in just a second here. So yep, smoke headed over into the western part of that town. Litzerschützen, however, do have excellent range, and that is going to be a problem, but pretty excellent fire support from the STRF, although I guess I should have moved him backwards. Let's see. Second shot's a miss, third shot's is a hit, but not enough to kill. So the excellent frontal armor on the STRF is holding for right now against Litzerschützen, but another hit will be enough to take this guy down, and it looks like, ooh, wow, I thought that was going in, and I thought that was going to make contact. So as we do get other infantry fighting vehicles up closer, we of course have more guns opening up, so the PVVs should be opening up soon, and the Litzerschützen just have not had good luck so far. 15 points off of an Oat, and we're leading 15-5, which, considering as the attacker I have more points to do that with, is looking pretty good, but we're losing a lot of the smoke here. Wasn't lasting as long as I had hoped, so I'm trying to re-smoke there, but more Litzerschützen and Pechota opening up, so we should be unloading. Yep, Stormer, and the CV90s, hopefully far enough away, but really good use of long-range anti-tank infantry in the first part of this town is going to be a problem. Just look at those guns. Oh, I love it. I've heard really good things about Scandinavian mechanized, so hopefully we'll be able to make a couple of those come true. And looking at the kills, 55 points to us versus, well, 70 points to us versus 5 for our opponents. But Stormers are getting shoot through, and we do lose a CV-90, and that is an expensive piece, as all of these infantry fighting vehicles are relatively expensive for us. But, I mean, geez, look at the amount of hurt we're putting on all of the infantry in the front of that town. Now, however, 140 points for my opponent, as the Lutzerschützen finally do get a couple shots online. Also, we have the ATGM infantry that were over in that town finally opening up as well, as the smoke was lost. I needed a couple more mortars than I had. If we'd kept up constant smoke, that would have been a good thing. Volksgrimjäger do try to cross the bridge here, just trying to split the attention and get maybe into that town where I might be able to do some good. Of course, 15 point strength infantry is pretty nice, but I'm not able to get the Eriks online to fire at those Topaz or at the SPW 80s, and things have really turned around in just a short amount of time, as lots of those expensive infantry fighting vehicles were isolated and taken out. So SGRV is coming up to try and do something about that. We have 90 point tanks with high rates of fire shooting in, trying to support against the Lutzerschützen, as my Stormer are getting a little worn down here by the OT-64C and the remains of that Lutzerschützen group there. So 205 points for me, 315 for my opponent, as the Volksgrimjäger and the western side are completely killed. I do have some moving around the far side, trying to cross the bridge over toward Delta. Should have had them over there to begin with. And my PVV is actually out of fuel, which just, oh, I was so mad. Stormer get into the town, but Prozminski are going to be very dangerous. These, of course, are shock training recon infantry, and we also have FJB supporting as well as that OT-64C. So SCRVs are firing in, but, I mean, these guys are 3 HE power. Even with the high rate of fire, most of that's going to be mitigated shooting into city blocks, as infantry do get pretty good damage mitigation for that sort of thing, and my remaining infantry fighting vehicles are trying to move up and around the side, but I'm just no longer getting those cost-effective trades. A Dyna opening up, and that's going to be with an Archon ATGM, taking out a TGB of all things, and my Storm Engineer. This is just not the right role for these guys. These guys could have done excellent things on the defense, but I needed more Stormer. I needed more good, solid line infantry than I had, and now my SGRVs are starting to take shots. That one coming in from an Archon's, from the Dyna 1's Archon missile. I'm trying to move him back. Let's see if it'll be quick enough, and that Archon does go into the ground there, so the SGRV is safe for the moment. But the other one has actually been lost to ATGM fire as well, so apologies I missed that, but here is the dead carcass of that Swedish tank. So RBS are going to be moving forward, trying to get online against the Dyna 1, but some shenanigans with line of sight as he's moving in and out of that city block are a problem. And these expensive RBS, so 50 points here for the RBS, were not able to be useful as my opponent had no aerial elements at all. So there's a lot of specialist infantry for very little gain. We do get a couple kills on SPW, and I have to be pretty careful about this because, oh, excuse me, sorry. I don't have the most ammunition left on these guys, so I'm actually turning it off to make sure we don't waste any more shots. My resupply vehicle was too close to this mortar and drained all of his resupply trying to put more mortars into place, which I really don't need more mortars at this moment. I needed them prior. I needed them to smoke the advance, to cover the advance, but right now, not so much. And we do have Volksgrimjäger moving up. CV, I mean, almost out of rounds on the Bushmaster 2 and the RH-202 autocannon. That's going to be another problem. And I am finally able to identify that Conqueror's team that's caused me so much trouble. STRV trying to cross the bridge, maybe a bit of a questionable thing there, but Storm Engineer opening up with their Eriks. Of course, they are fire support infantry, so they can fire directly on enemy infantry with usually AC weapons here. So, I mean, 2 HE power isn't that great, but sustained fire should be pretty nice. I'm trying to get them into the sort of part of town where they should be able to see that Conqueror's team, but I did lose my tank crossing the bridge as well. Should have held him back in reserve until the ATGM team was gone, but I got a little bit overzealous, and the RBS, I had one missile go before I could turn that RBS off again, just trying to save ammunition on these guys. I don't know why. That was off, but he fired, and that really annoyed me at the time, because I was sitting there going, hold on, this gun is off. Why are you still shooting? Look at that. Who knows? But Storm Engineer got a little too close. Volksgrimjäger find a backbone of Pechota that I was really hoping was no longer there, as I'm really struggling to get through here. It might have been, I think it wasn't 8 and 11, I think it was like 550 and 800, so I am, of course, coming up on the ends of my points. Volksgrimjäger moving over from the western side now, trying to, my hope was, if this is the last bit of his infantry, then maybe my Volksgrimjäger can do something about it, but we're just getting ground down. There's too many of them. FJB, of course, don't have tertiary, but they still have that elite training, and that is going to be difficult. Stormer may be able to get the last of them. Oh, yes, we do. So 25 points there, and we do put down that Topaz, but I just have too few men. Even a single additional double squad of Stormer instead of these guys would have been nice, but again, during the previous Take My Town, Vimes brought heavy hogs and cobras and a longbow and all of that, so I was expecting a decent helicopter presence that just wasn't there. In the meantime, the Dyna is still alive. The fact that he out-dueled a couple Scandinavian tanks really did bother me. At the time, I mean, ATGMs are useful. There is a reason to pay for them. And Volskermjägeri are now in the same position where there's just a couple too many of the enemy remaining. So we do kill that Conqueror's team, and we are coming up on, getting the kills that we need, but only 110 points left of our own, and I mean, this isn't all that useful. So I have a TGB, I have 2 AA infantry, I have an ATGM infantryman that has a single shot left with the RBS, and a mortar. That's it. So I'm really just hoping for, a little bit of good luck here in the infantry fight, but that backbone Pechota and Litzerschützen is going to be able to hold. So we'll speed through this as there is just some positioning here a little bit, trying to get good engagements, and I fail at this as the Volskermjägeri do get overwhelmed and ground down, and I will be trying to, maybe isolate that Conqueror's team. We had the mortars firing in, but not really able to do all that much. Although, I mean, hey, panicked, worried, that's pretty good, but I am going to try and get that Dyna, so we're moving over to it. I turn off the tertiary to try and fire the Carl Gustav, but I don't know why. He was aiming, he didn't fire, and I had right-clicked on that guy a couple times. First shot is a bit of a miss, so I'm moving over, trying to avoid those Litzerschützen just that little bit long enough, and not quite able to get it, so I manually targeted that resupply vehicle. I mean, hey, yeah, when a game's like this, it's just, I was feeling a little spiteful, but such is life. Down go the Volskermjägeri, and that is going to be it for this portion of the Take My Town. So, unfortunately, Scandinavia not able to really take the day this time around, but we'll see what tomorrow brings with the second half. So, of course, I will be defending against Eastern Bloc as Vimes is going to be attempting to take a position in Hotel. So, thank you all for hanging around. That's all we've got for today. We'll see you again real soon.